Okay, so we're starting section 3-1 in logic. And like I've said to you earlier, make sure that you take good notes and keep up with the work this chapter. It shouldn't be too bad if you do that. Okay, and it's actually very interesting. First of all, we're looking at what a statement is. A statement is a sentence that is either true or false, but not both. There's no gray area in math here, okay? So it's either true or false, okay? Things that are not statements are questions, opinions, and commands. So if I were to say, what time is it? That is not a statement. If I were to say that pizza is the best food on earth, that is my opinion. That is not a statement. Okay? Especially with dipped in the ranch sauce. Ranch makes everything awesome. Okay? And if I were to say, take good notes, that is not a statement either because it's a command. Okay? An example, two examples of this. Shakespeare wrote the last episode of The Sopranos. That is a statement. Okay? The other one is, today is not Friday. That is also a statement. Now, they may be true, they may be false, but they're still statements. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about negation. What is the base word in negation? Negate. Okay, what do we use that in? In math a lot. What word do we use a lot in that? Negate. We use it in negative, right? Negative. So we are trying to turn the statement into its opposite when we negate something. If it's already false, it's going to become a true statement. If it's already true, it will become a false statement. So it's just turning it around. Okay? So an example of this is Shakespeare did not write the last episode of The Sopranos. That was that first statement we made, and they turned it into a false statement by inserting the word not. Okay? The second statement was, today is not Friday. Well, they made it into a true statement now by taking out the word not. Now it is, today is Friday. So these two are examples of negation. So one of the things I want you to do on this, and ignore these things because we'll get to them in a minute. Find the negation of Paris is the capital of Spain and July is not a month. It's the opposite. So what is the opposite of the first statement? Paris is not the capital of Spain. So if I were to actually go in here and write not, that becomes the negation of it, right? How about July is not a month? What's the negation of that? Okay, so if I just cross out not, that becomes the positive. Okay? Yes?
So basically, the negation is supposed to be like a true statement?
Not necessarily. It changes the statement. So like if you're starting with the false statement, it becomes a true statement. If you're starting with a true statement, it becomes a false statement. Okay, it makes it its opposite. Good question. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is expressing these symbolically. In math, we don't want to have to write down the sentences over and over again. So all they did was say, for the first statement, Shakespeare wrote the last episode of The Sopranos. They call that P. Just the letter P. And today is not Friday. They call that Q. All right? So the big thing on this is if you look at the highlighted green part, you see that little symbol there? That means not P. Okay, that means the negation of P. So if I were to find the negation of P, we already talked about that. Shakespeare did not write the last episode of The Sopranos. The negation of Q, today is Friday. Okay? So if I were to say, like, let's see, come up with another one. Tomorrow is the homecoming game. And if I were to say that's a P statement, okay, what is not P? Yeah, tomorrow is not the homecoming game, right? So if you see these symbols, you'll be able to know what they mean. Okay. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Is in English, we have these words called quantifiers, and they are these following words. All, some, no, or none. When you have those words, it makes it tricky in finding the negation of them. Because if I said, all of you love math, what is the negation of all of you love math? Well, that's a common thing. People like to say none of you like math, but is that true?
Not all of you like math.
Not all of you, or you could say some of you like math. So it becomes a little bit tricky. Okay? So quantified statements contain these quantifiers, and these are some examples here. All poets are writers. Some people are bigots. No math book have pictures, and some students do not work hard. All right? So if I were to make the negation of all poets are writers, the negation of that would be not all poets are writers. I could also say some poets, some writers are poets, are not poets. Okay? Okay, so I have this little chart. I want you guys to copy down on the next page. Here's a statement. All A are B. Okay, the negation of that statement is some A are not B. All you need is one or two people to make it a sum, right? The example of this, all people take exams honestly. The negation of that, it's not, I can't say no people take exams honestly because that's not true, right? We just need to make, we need to make it just some. So some people do not take exams honestly. Okay, the second one is some A are B. The negation of that is no A are B. Because we already have a few in the first statement, in order to negate it, that means we can't have any. So an example of that, some roads are open. And the negation of that is no roads are open. It makes me think of northern Minnesota when we have a blizzard. No roads are open.